This is Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast, a podcast about, you guessed it, nonprofit fundraising. This isn't the first podcast about it, but definitely not like any others you've listened to. This is a podcast for fundraisers, by fundraisers. No boring charts or the same stale best practices you've heard for years. No ideas that only work in theory here. No concepts from people who aren't in the same trenches as you are every single day. Each week, you'll get practical strategies and tips to craft messages that engage donors and raise more money. This isn't smoke and mirrors. Everything has been pressure tested in the real world. Plus, you can start using them as soon as the episode ends. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Thomas and Steve Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. This is episode 22. How your donors are wrong.
Not all the ways, but a few.
Yeah, not all the ways. We didn't do this. 101 ways your donors are wrong. But these are just some reasons how they're wrong, why they're wrong.
And how you get in trouble when they're wrong.
Yeah, maybe later we'll do how you get out of that trouble. But we're just going to start.
Every episode's about how to get out.
That's right. Every episode's about how to get out of trouble. I'm your host, Ryan Thomas, Vice President at Oneicity. I blanked on that title for a second. I apparently need to bring business cards or look at a teleprompter.
Yeah, you can have a name tag you look at. And I'm Steve Thomas, still CEO and one of the founding partners of Oneicity.
You nailed it. You're ahead. We started this podcast because if you're in fundraising, you know that this work doesn't stop. There's no office hours. It's not 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's all day, all the time. And we had a podcast before having a podcast by having these conversations and talking fundraising in situations where no one else really wants to hear about. Donor retention and ask a raise, and they'd really rather
segmentation.
Yeah, they'd really rather actually focus on the Super Bowl that's playing. So we made the smart decision to keep friends and buy mics, and so we've done that. And now you get to have a seat at our table, and you don't have to tell us to shut up or stop talking during the commercials. You just fast forward or go to the next episode. And Oneicity is a boutique ad agency. We're focused on fundraising and marketing for nonprofits and been in this for well more than a decade. And people on the team measure their experience in this work in multiple decades.
Oh, yeah.
With plural. And no matter how much experience our team has, how many decades are involved, we want 5-star reviews. So half a decade of reviews are what we're looking for wherever you are listening to your podcast. Get your podcast. Give us a 5-star review. All right, we'll take a 3.5 or up. Just give us a review. Let us know truly what you think. The other avenue you've got for that is emailing questions, comments to podcast@oneicity.com, and that will tell us what you think. You can ask a question. We're trying to get, we've got almost enough for a second mailbag episode, and that was fun when we did it the first time, and we like to have that. Just like you should feed back to your donors, we like to feed back directly to our listeners. Not a great analogy, but we're going to go with it.
Yeah, just keep going.
So our first segment is something we call Mail Call. This is something we've seen in the wild. This is fundraising or marketing or something tangentially related to those things that Steve or I have come across. Yeah, and we're the arbiters of what is loosely related or applicable.
Yeah. And that's another place you can send an email and have a snarky, well, I don't think that was...
Yeah, that was not anywhere close. It was a bit of
a reach.
So, I'll go first.
Okay, good.
And mine is something I don't have, something I didn't see in the wild.
Oh.
Yeah. There's an organization that I support. They're local. They're pretty small, but I like them, and I like what they do. They sent me an email, an e-appeal, a fundraising email back in, it was January or February, and it was fine. It was a little long, but not the longest we've seen, not the worst. And like, okay, good try, great you're doing what you can. I randomly thought about them earlier this week and looked through my inbox to see, okay, what didn't make it past my filter, my mental filter? What did I just mark red? And I was going to do, okay, here are some bad subject lines they've been doing that I like them, but it didn't even get into my brain. Couldn't find anything from them. So I went into my spam and my junk, all the filters, couldn't find anything. And I haven't got an email from them since, I think it was January 17th.
They've cut
something
you
like
off.
that. I've given, and I've gotten a thank you, but I haven't gotten a marketing email from them in, at this point, it's almost 8 months.
They may be taking a break.
Yeah, I guess. But you should only start something that you can not finish, but carry forward and do repeatedly. That fundraising email I got from them wasn't the first one they'd done, but it was maybe their second or third. It got my attention.
Yeah.
And what I think happened is they started that new strategy or that new initiative and couldn't get another one out.
When you're small, that's so hard.
It's so difficult.
Oh, man.
But it's better to just do what you've been doing and not try something unless you can do it multiple times. Before we put this podcast out, we had 4 or 5 episodes done and in the bag because we didn't want to be one and done.
Because as a small business, not only do we not have we don't pay to have a sales dude, and we don't have a lot of the things one does to market. So we have to make sure that we're putting all of our energy into serving clients before we do the other. And
so you podcast listeners get the leftovers. But they're great. Who doesn't love leftovers?
Well, that is kind of, I don't know. Yeah, that's okay. That wasn't where I meant to go, but yeah, they're not the first time.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is so
It's a
difficult.
challenge.
And I would say it's worth, if you wanted to do an email marketing and, okay, we need to do that. We're going to do it. Write 5 up front, or at least topics.
Get ahead.
And then you can catch up. You've got room. And because the worry is, I randomly thought of them from a business podcast perspective. Most donors aren't going to do that. And most donors have probably forgot about them in some sort of way.
Well, it goes back to the I think the last episode we were talking about frequency and staying at keeping something in front of people.
Yep.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that if you're small, that's what happens when you just have to make the commitment. And one of the reasons we have a podcast is you're the guy who, once he makes a commitment and has a plan, it runs. And you don't have to worry about the vagaries of whims and whatever happens.
Block out the time, and you just
And in
repeat
fact,
it. Turn on the
we're
conveyor belt.
recording at a non-standard time because
life came up and stuff happened.
Yeah.
But okay, we catch up. We make it work.
Okay, that was great.
Yeah. So if you're going to start something new, you should start something new. Always be trying and testing, but just make sure you can actually pull it off and repeatedly do it for a bit.
Have a plan.
Yep.
Okay, that was good. All right, my Scene in the Wild comes from February. I saved this in my Evernote file where I keep stuff, and then I lost it, and then I just found it, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. So, and for reference, I have 2 feline references in this podcast. This is the first one.
Okay.
Here's the headline. Shelter raises cash by lining litter boxes with X's names.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it turns out there's a Maine animal shelter at Valentine's Day who they were offering, and I believe the donation level was $5, that for $5 they would write your ex-relationship's name or just someone
you didn't like. Person of your choosing.
On a piece of paper and put it in a litter box for one of their cats to
poop on.
Yeah.
And so you didn't even get.
No.
It's not even a liner for.
Oh, no.
So not even restrictive to you having a cat.
And here's the quote. We'll write your ex's name on a small piece of paper and place it in one of our finest litter boxes. Then our cats will get to work. Our felines promise to cover your number 1 exes with plenty of number 2.
Oh, that's so good.
Direct quote. Okay.
That is so great.
All proceeds benefit our residents. Please visit the following. Blah blah blah. To declare your unlove this Valentine's Day. So this is one of the very few, let's call it negative or unpositive emotion that maybe this works. And I think it's pretty limited to animal shelters, maybe.
Yep.
I guess I can't resist the urge to just say be cautious with this kind of stuff because it can certainly, if you'll pardon the pun, backfire on you. And
yeah,
so,
that's a good pun.
That's all I'm going to go with.
Okay.
I'll stop there.
All right, stop before we get out of trouble. That's one of those that I don't work for an animal shelter, but I think I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah, that's good.
That's how you know it's a good idea.
The sloths will be using that.
That's right. The sloths will be, but it'll take a while.
Yeah.
The sloths are slow.
Yeah.
Next, try this, something you should be doing if you're not already.
Yeah.
A lot of things in our episodes can be a long burn. There can be a long tail to put it together, get it enacted, like we talked about earlier, have a plan and be in place. This, not so much. This, as soon as the episode's over, you can usually put this into place very quickly and start to see results very quickly after you put it into place.
Yeah.
So mine is bite-sized social.
I like that.
I saw a post from a nonprofit that I follow on Facebook that was 20 paragraphs.
Oh,
I counted.
So, were they one-sentence paragraphs?
No, these were all proper English teacher paragraphs
Up
of
to
at
the
least
War and
on
Peace
my
level.
iPhone, 3 to 4 lines.
Scroll.
So we're looking at 75 to 85 lines of copy.
Wow.
Now it's on an iPhone, so narrower than a piece of paper.
That makes
but
of which most people are looking at social
Just
on
a
an iPhone. So yeah.
ton of copy. Now,
Was it riveting?
no.
Okay.
And so that's that's a great question because it goes to my point. You'll find, and we've all seen studies or tips and tricks that say longer posts are actually more engaging. You get people to engage with it, to read it, to do the post, but that only works if what you're saying is engaging or somebody wants to make it all the way to the end of this rabbit hole you've put out.
Yeah.
If you're just saying fluff because you read longer posts are good, so I need to just write a long post, that doesn't work. So, like with kids, what is bite-sized is going to vary for your tribe, your followers, but work to just communicate your message in the social post, see about how long it is. If you feel like it's way too short because it's 2 sentences, okay, maybe add some perspective. But don't worry so much about length, worry more about copy because the right message is going to come through regardless of how many lines it is. Even hashtags are usually overrated, but I mean, they're useful, but that's not the primary. Hashtag overrated. All of those metrics matter, but the metric that matters most is if you've got a compelling message, a point to your post. So don't write fluff posts. Go bite-sized. Get your message across.
And test and watch your metrics.
Yeah, watch and see.
Watch and see.
We'll see.
Okay, mine is I won't say it's a you should be doing because I'm afraid it'll go the wrong direction as other things do. But this is in the category of try this. So just stay with me a minute. So if you've done this work very much, you've had and I'm air quoting here, a discussion with somebody, and what I really mean, what that's a coded term for is heated argument.
Yeah.
Over what that photo, that expression on that person's face, what that really means.
And that goes back to at times we've talked about sad, the need, the heartstring photos versus success happy.
Exactly.
There could be a time where someone is saying, "Hey, here's our success happy photo." They got a sad face. They're not. They look, their eyes are smiling.
Or it's what's the difference between pensive and angry? Or happy and kind of
almost
psychotic
angry again.
looking.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we'll talk about some of the other kinds of the sciencey nuances of that stuff at another time. But again, here's something that I did some time ago for audio listeners. A Google Photofeeler, and it's exactly the way you'd expect it. And
All one word.
Well, yeah, or just Google it. You'll get
Google
there.
will take care of it.
Yeah, the Google will do it. What this is a crowdsourced website. It began, I'm almost certain, it began for dating sites. So say you're ready to post a photo on a dating site and you can't decide, and all your friends can't decide either. Well,
Market research.
Yeah. What this does is let you do research and get your photo rated. Now, I didn't look at the dating part of it, but the smart people who did this, and I don't know who they are, they added a business level.
Oh yeah, they're not dumb.
Yeah. So what it does is it will rank you on competency, likability, and influentialness based on just the photo. Nothing else.
No perspective.
No name, no nothing. Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did was I posted 3 photos of me, and I'll put this on the video, and if you email us, I'll send it to you. And I got 40 votes, 80 votes, and 80 votes. Argue all you want to about statistical significance, whatever. So one of the things I did was there was a photo that we used of me that I've always hated, and I never could identify why I hated it. Right? I mean, I've got a face for video.
It was just
right?
a gut. It's just a gut feeling. It's like I just don't like that. You're not feeling it.
Yeah, I just wasn't feeling it, and there was something about it that just kind of made me go, "Ooh, that doesn't look good." And so these are 3 photos of me, all wearing, pre-COVID.
This is
vest
one.
and tie.
One. You're in a football uniform doing the Heisman.
No,
that one. You're a ring top. You're a circus ring top guy.
These are all business-looking things.
Yeah, your vest
roughly,
and tie.
Yeah,
and pretty much
roughly the same thing. So on competency, one photo was an 8.7. One photo was an 8.5.
That's a 6.5.
6.5. Thank you. I don't have my glasses on. And the other one photo was a 9.5. Isn't that interesting? On competent. Then on likability, the first photo was a 7.9. The one I don't like, 4.9 on likability. So
they just don't
the
know
lowest. No, that's a kind of
They clearly don't
that's kind
know
of a
you.
weird look. And then on one photo was a 9.5. A 9.4. So all I'm saying is that on these rankings, they differed. You don't want to. Here's how I suggest you using it. You don't have those are probably not metrics for anything other than your website or blog photo if you're a nonprofit or LinkedIn or something like that. But this is if someone is telling you that they know exactly how a photo looks, this is a great opportunity to guide somebody in how different photos can have very different people can have very different emotional reactions to photos based on nothing but just what they see. And this, no one's sitting a lot here studying. They're just click, because what they do is if they vote on enough things, then they get credits.
So they can do
use
a post
for theirs. And so it's worth Photofeeler. It is all one word here, but let the Google do it. And I believe it's photofeeler.com. But you find it. I'll post it on the video, put it in the call notes, blah blah blah. Play with that just to kind of see. Wow, that's kind of interesting how people with nothing but the visual make a determination, and we do that all the time. That is part of marketing and fundraising. It's just a thing.
Yeah, and alternately, if you don't want to use Photofeeler, you can email podcast@winicity.com and we will break ties for you. We'll give you our votes on how competent that photo looks or how likable that person seems to be.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
So we do a lot of different topics on this podcast. We talk about a lot of different things. But I would say the only commonality, the common thread between all 22 episodes has been donors.
Yeah.
This is all about going to donors because you can't fundraise without donors because that's who you're raising the funds from.
Yeah.
So we love donors.
Yeah.
They're the lifeblood of your organization. They're valuable both in the literal term and then in esoteric terms, but they're also wrong. It can be easy to assume or think that the people who are giving you funds are who you should listen to about how you should do things.
Because they're stakeholders.
Yep.
They're part of our organization. They're our family.
And we've told you to say they're part of the organization.
Yeah, because you're building relationships with them. I was wondering how you were going to intro and get into this because this is
So was I,
it's a little
actually.
tricky. Yeah,
It's not easy. There are we joked in the open, there are lots of ways donors are wrong, but all of them, the other commonalities, all of them are well-meaning. Nobody is wrong on purpose trying to lead your organization astray. So,
true.
we don't have a numbered list. This isn't like a couple episodes ago where we had a top 8 or something like that, and you have no alliteration that I'm aware of. You have feline references, but we're going to get there.
We're halfway through this.
We're just going to talk about a few ways donors are wrong, ways to possibly navigate around that if this is language or things you've heard from a donor, how to get out of that, and just reinforce that even though they are the ones who are replying to your appeals or newsletters or emails with the funds that help you accomplish your mission, there are times you need to say no. So I'll go first.
Or just ignore them and not say no.
Yeah, that may actually be better. I didn't get that email. I had the spam filter.
Thanks for the input. That was thoughtful and well-reasoned.
Yeah, well, that's still a reply. Yeah, into the shredder. The first one that I didn't rank these, but it's got to be the most common way donors are wrong and probably the most common thing you hear from donors if you do any type of direct mail is you don't have to mail me so often.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give me all of that mail. I love your work. I love what you're doing. I don't need to be...
Yeah, don't waste that nickel.
paper.
Yeah.
Every time we have seen a client, usually when we're with them, we're able to talk them out of it. But in the past, anytime we've seen someone stop mailing or reduce the frequency to a donor, results go down. That donor gives less, stops giving. And when you do it over a group of donors, that can have a huge impact on your organization.
Brutal.
It's horrible. And it can be tough to engage with a donor who's telling you, hey, don't mail me so often. I don't need all of those reminders. But I would, if they're having that kind of a frank conversation with you, I think it's okay to have sort of a frank conversation back and say, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for that input. But we've seen that even though no one realizes it, people need those reminders. And you're too valuable to us to let you fall off our wagon or to lose you in where we're going. As long as it's not going to just anger you, I'd like to keep mailing you because we've seen it. We've lost people, and it just hurts me to think of the people we've lost because we don't mail them.
Yeah, and one of the things that happens is, with almost no exceptions, everyone who is your donor is going to be someone else's donor. There are very few donors who are one-trick ponies or only giving to one organization. Well, what happens is the other guys aren't going to back off from their fundraising. And it's sort of like they're still trying to woo that donor, and you quit. It's sort of like
you're not around anymore,
or your spouse. You leave town for a year, and
somebody else is around.
The relationship may cool slightly, and so that's. And I just want to say, because it's interesting. I was gonna make sure so that was one of mine as well. The thing I would say is with direct mail, donors often will link it to cost. They'll say, don't spend that money.
Yep.
With email, they often are still making those kinds of comments, but they don't link it to money. So email is often a different metric, but if you think impacts, you don't want to give away either. And your arguments are 100% correct. That's what you say. If you have the relationship, you can jokingly say, hey, look, someone else, you are too important, you are too powerful, you're too influential, you're too much of a whatever donor for me to not let you know what we're doing. And the riskiest place in all of this is you, the leader, or you, the fundraising leader, don't know it's happening. Because they talk to someone in the mailroom, a receptionist, somebody else, and well-meaning, they just go in and put "do not mail" on the record.
Because so often people on the team, people in the organization want to help make things good for the donor. If the donor had called and said, "Hey, do you have any extras of that thing I got in the mail?" Sure, we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Hey, will you not mail me? Sure, that's just a couple button clicks.
Make you happy. And so that is one of the things to educate the team and give them words.
Yeah, almost not quite a script, but copy points.
But help them understand. And then here's another thing for another episode. Part of what will bubble up in this is what your people really believe about your fundraising. Because
your people meaning people on the team.
Your team will reveal whether, because I worked in a situation one time where staff really felt like fundraising was sort of extortion, and when I came in the organization, that was kind of the thought, and it took a long time to work through that, but you'll find out what your team believes about your work by how they respond to these donors, and so.
That's a good point.
That may be something you want to work on, but give them words. Yeah. All right.
All right. What's another way you think donors are wrong?
We talk a lot about making sure you and the nonprofit see yourselves and are portraying the outward, the projection of your expertise. Not about ego, not about pride, but about we know what we're doing here. Our mission is thoughtful. It's not willy-nilly. We are proceeding in these ways. If you're faith-based, this is something prayerful and God-oriented, whatever your organization does. Well, I know of, and it's interesting, the ones I put together, I can come up with it, and I bet yours are the same. I know how these things happen in real life. Every one of these is some kind of conversation I either had with a donor or one of my clients had with a donor and had with me.
Yeah, these are all, I guess, kind of research cop-outs. I didn't do any research.
Wow,
I just thought,
I know that one.
Okay, I'll just draw on my own experiences
so anyway,
here real quick.
I know of at least two situations where donors try to influence the direction of the organization. And by that I mean not, you ought to go from sloths to helping children. I mean a little bit of a turn, and it happened. The two examples I know of, it happened two different ways. One, there was some real estate that a donor wanted to give to the organization and get tax benefits. But they were saying, you should do this with this, and it's so nice because I'll just give it to you. Thankfully, the organization was able to navigate and think their way through that and think with the donor and help the donor sell that piece of property and give some portion of the dollars back. It wasn't quite as easy, but it kept them from having to tack. The other situation was somebody just got involved with the organization, and then they had an angle on it that they were very passionate about that was helpful and good and would change lives, but wasn't the direction of the organization. And it's sort of like, this is not the example, so you'll know, it's sort of like a summer camp. The summer camp had, they got resources for helping kids. Oh, well, let's do an after-school program in the inner city. And so it wasn't hugely tangential, but the leadership of the organization went, wow, that just is not our expertise. That's not our focus. And so donor well-meaning absolutely
passionate,
knew the ways to do it, was willing, again, and this is the way it often happens and why it's such a difficult situation to overcome, often willing to fund it or provide money for it. So yeah, just be careful when a donor wants to help you guide your mission and direction.
Great. Love your passion. However,
yeah, and those are hard conversations.
Those are really hard. The other one I thought of, or another one I thought of, was I've heard a lot people saying, I don't need a story, or I don't need a sad story.
Okay, mine was when they want you to shift to investment language and stop with all that emotion.
Yeah, and where that usually comes from in the donor's heart is, I don't need you to pull at my heartstrings, convince me to give to you. I already like you. I love what you're doing. Maybe I'm a little more informed than that first donor saying, don't mail me at all. I know I need the reminder. I need to remember who you are, but that's all I need is a reminder. Send me a postcard saying, hey, don't forget to give your gift around this time. Oh, I'm in. Don't send me a story. I don't need the emotion.
Yeah.
That also... you can't do that on a per donor basis, but anytime you move away from emotion, you are going to see a downward turn, a decrease, negative results.
Oh, yeah.
Because whether the donor knows it or not, that emotion is what got them in the first place. And maybe now at this point, they're riding the high of that emotion or the effects of it, but eventually, like a roller coaster, that's going to come down, and you need the emotion to bring you back up. And then more practically, to your point, someone in the mailbox or inbox is going to be coming in hard with emotion, and the heart wants what the heart wants. And it's just, look over here.
If you want someone to reach a conclusion, reason with them. If you want them to make a decision or take an action, give them emotion. It's like gravity and the sun rising in the east.
Yeah. And to double check. My head real quick.
You notice my word rate slowed down as I made sure it is the east.
Just a quick mental Google in the east.
And I even had the thought, well, actually, it's because the Earth is turning, so it's not.
Well, yeah, we're not going to bring Copernicus into this.
Oh, well done.
Okay, well, don't draw a ton of attention. We're not 100%. I'm not 100% sure that's correct.
It is Copernicus.
Okay, all right.
I'm fairly sure. Or Plato.
Email podcast at Onicity if you're a science teacher on the side in addition to fundraising, we got that wrong.
And you've just had a flash of nausea.
Threw your phone into the wall.
This is what's wrong with the kids today.
I don't know anything.
What generation are you again?
I'm a geriatric millennial.
So millennial, they don't know anything.
About to cash in my Social Security.
There you go. Well, good, because we're spending as fast as we can.
That's good.
Boomers.
That was good.
Go Boomers.
All right, what's another one you've got? Give us another reason why donors are wrong, Steve.
Okay.
That's made for a soundbite.
That was good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to akin to what you were saying. Donors will tell you, hey, stop all that validating thing. I know you guys. I trust you. Just give me whatever the IRS requires. In fact, I'll just stop by the office and pick it up. You don't have to do any of that falderall. Because just like with the fundraising thing, they think they're helping you. And exactly like the fundraising thing, that will lead to that donor eventually wandering off. And so just like with the fundraising, if you have a donor who's saying, hey, don't send me validation stuff. I know, I trust you. You're 100%. I'm with you. Just say to them some version of, totally get that. You need to know. It is a stewardship thing. It is us being faithful to what we know you want done. And I'm not going to stop telling you the difference you're making in the world. It is wrong for me to do that. And this is one of those few places I would say, then you draw this line and say, if you don't want me to tell you the difference you're making, you have to stop giving. Now that's one of those not fun things to say, but here's what that will do to a donor, is that will do nothing but reinforce who you are, and that the feedback and the validation you're doing is central to the message, and that's really important.
And often, psychologically, we want to stay consistent. And by putting up that, I guess that's sort of a roadblock by saying, hey, if you don't want this validation, you need to stop giving and doing this thing you like doing and you have been doing. Weirdly and counterintuitively, that often makes us more entrenched in doing this action.
Yeah, because that's you've lifted you put yourself on a place that is high ground. I mean, that is beautiful.
Now, to be clear, we are not advising that as a strategy you should
do to everybody.
If you're looking to raise average gift or raise donor retention, just go around and tell people that. But in those conversations, that could be a scary line to say to a donor. Use that tidbit as courage of very likely that is going to end up making that donor want to give to you more often and be more passionate about you than it is going to turn them off and then say, okay, then great.
And obviously how you deliver this message is critical, crucial. You don't want to do this in an email or a letter.
Or a text message.
Or on the phone if you can avoid it. I mean, the phone
is better. That's the better.
You want the tone to carry across and your authentic voice speaking to the donor about your passion for the way you're changing the world.
At the time, you don't need the fundraising tone in the letter. You need this is just you and me right here on a Zoom at a coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. All right. My other reason or another way a donor is wrong is, again, this goes to fundraising. You don't have to give me so much stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I need a postcard at most with a reminder to give.
Because I will.
I don't need the letter. I don't need that slip where I've got to put my information down and send it back. I don't even need that envelope.
Yeah, because my broker just sends it in. I just call them and they
I know how all this works.
People.
I know how to do it. But again, like everything else, if you follow their directions, it isn't going to work. And it's going to decrease the amount of emotion, the amount of contact. Every one of those pieces, we talked about the Publishers Clearinghouse a few weeks ago. There's some weird psychology about having multiple pieces for them to look at in that process. You remove that, and not only do you make it, there's less thud factor when they're their significant other, or if they're in a big house, the person who brings in the mail drops it down on the desk in the study. There's no thud because there's less in it. There's less for them to engage with and go through that process and that funnel of giving to you. Mm-hmm. So don't listen to them about that. Keep putting stuff, just stuff your envelopes full of pieces. Everything.
Up to 1 ounce.
Well, yeah, up to 1. I mean, 0.9. Invest in the scale that goes to 4 past the decimal and just get right in there.
That's good. All right. To me?
Yeah, to you. And we don't rehearse this, so neither of us really knows when the other one's out. This is like volleyball. We're just volleying back and forth until
I will be out after this one.
Okay.
So for clarity, except for just the vast reservoir of experience that I'm drawing from.
Okay. All right, that's good.
Okay. So this is a little related to that. Is people who, and this is often, I'm just going to call it. You will see this often with boomers who have been successful in their view of the world. Business people, entrepreneurs, some of the professions are classic in this. And because they are experts over here, transfer that expertise over here. And so because, I'll just impugn attorneys, just because I'm a very successful attorney, I also understand you, the nonprofit, how you should operate, and more importantly, how you should be doing your marketing and fundraising. Because blah, blah, blah.
Or even worse, I've done marketing for
an auto body shop.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But
Doesn't relate.
Not the same.
Yeah. So I will never forget having it didn't start out heated, but it got there, conversation with a leader who had fallen into this and was basically listening to a admin in their office about a rather technical part of fundraising. This good sized organization, there were a lot of levers and dials to be twisting, and the conclusion this leader gave me was, we're all experts in marketing. And my clarifying volley was, what does that mean? He said, everyone is an expert at marketing. And he's not only waving at me and our team, but waving just kind of around to the world.
Is he just saying that because we all get the million marketing messages a day?
Exactly. And that's what I was, for once, thoughtful enough to come back with. I said, no. We are consumers of marketing. That doesn't make us experts at marketing. So it is really easy and what happens is, this is a Dunning-Kruger kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. There's a variety of things that are at play here, but this is the hard one to Aikido and Judo, because often it is someone you really, you can't pick a fight. You can't win a fight with a board. You can't win a fight with, a board chair or, so you don't want to get it to that point. And often you can't reason your way out of it. And so one of the things that I would recommend doing when you get to that point where it's as I would say, there's a little antler behavior going on there. That's a great place to say, well, because I know I'm a marketing expert, and if you are also a marketing expert, you know the importance of testing. So let's head-to-head test this. And then you design a test. And that does a couple of things. One, that gives you a shot at
proving your point.
Well, I was going to say not driving the organization to the ditch, but true. Yeah, and proving your point. It protects your expertise. And then here, because I have been in a rodeo or two with this, there are some things that are counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. And at least once, multiple times actually, someone's crazy idea has turned out to be good enough that with some adjustment, that can become a workable thing.
There's a reason we don't any longer bet with money on if tests are going to work.
Yeah.
Because I got to keep my house.
And there are some sharks on the team.
Yeah. I'm broken, so an additional benefit I'm going to point out is often when someone has to take ownership and put money where their mouth is on their idea, and instead of just naysaying, they have to actually do it.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, they're a lot less confident in their idea being the gospel and the exact right way to go, and they've backed off.
And you have then a chance, because just making someone wrong that's just not a relationship building tool, at least the way I operate.
It's fun, but it's not a relationship building tool.
Maybe there are people who can make that work. I don't know. But if you agree on a test, that does a couple of things. One, it gives you a shot at maintaining the relationship. Mm-hmm. Second thing is it gives you some time.
Yeah.
And in those conversations, meetings, whatever, where there is okay, from here we're going to do this. But if it's from here, we're going to devise a test. We're going to figure that out. We're going to find the right time. A lot of things, and that gives you time, one, to think a little bit more about it and have a reasoned approach, because often these kind of things happen in a moment, and you're trying to scramble, figure this out. And then it also you, as I said, you may learn something significantly valuable, and what a cool thing to be able to go back to that person, because you really should, and say,
turns out.
I really, and if you're able to, it doesn't kill you to say I was wrong. You're not curing cancer. You're not, identifying a tumor in someone's brain. this is about fundraising and marketing, and there are some variables. I mean, it just is.
I didn't think that stupid envelope was going to work, but look at this.
Yeah,
it went great.
Right there.
So what's your next idea?
Yeah.
What else you got rattling around in there?
Marketing expert.
Yeah, marketing expert. Let us know what you got. I mean, anybody can get lucky once.
Yeah. Oh, and that's
if you can have 2 ideas, then you're closer. 3, you can call yourself an expert.
Absolutely.
It's like an ace in World War II. Until you shoot 3 planes down, you can't give yourself that title.
I thought it was 5.
It's a prime number either way.
If you're an ace, email us.
Okay. Yeah, if you're an ace. Okay. All right, the one I had left was really similar to that, so we're just gonna move on.
Go with that. All right.
All right, so let's go to on your radar. These are things that you and I used to pass back and forth that aren't always fundraising related, but things we both felt, hey, you ought to read this when you get a chance. Take a look at this. Have you checked this out? Put it on your radar. Get to it when you can, but it's worth getting to. So you go first.
Okay. This is my second, for those keeping score, my second feline reference. If you are a Netflix consumer, you were aware of the series, and you may have actually consumed it the way a lot of us did, called Tiger King. Okay, about the guy in Oklahoma, tigers, right? Okay, that was fun.
Yeah,
okay.
that was good.
We're not gonna.
I see the feline part.
Yeah,
I got it.
So one of the sub themes, subtext, subplot. Excellent. Was about big cat rescue, which is a Florida.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Yeah, it's a Florida a exotic animal rescue organization. And it's really funny when Chris and I were on vacation in Florida one time.
Pre-Tiger King.
Pre-Tiger King. We visited this because I was kind of curious about it, and Chris had begun to be a donor, and so
she's a big cat person.
She's a cat person. She's a cat person.
Yeah, I was gonna say she is a passionate.
There you go.
Cat person.
Thankfully, we don't have any big cats.
Yep.
So I don't want to get into a lot of this, except to say, previous episodes we have joked about NFTs.
Yep.
Which
I'm a fan of in the right market and context.
And we have I think we've joked about NFTs for fundraising. Well, Big Cat Rescue, I think, might have found a way to use NFTs for, and so what they are doing is, and I very obviously, but I want to be clear, not an NFT expert by any means. But they are doing NFT art photos as fundraising of their animals, and so you get the NFT benefit. You get imagery counted, numbered. The scarcity guaranteed by the software of these animals, of these big cats. And so I thought, okay, that actually could fit into it. It's not a real long push. It doesn't focus mainly on technology. They're still in the stream of people who love the big cats. So yeah, Big Cat Rescue NFTs, you can get in on the ground floor right now.
That's right.
I will comment, 80% of the profits go back to the cats. So so our previous references about not being clear to the donor about what's going on, they're very clear. Again, I'm not endorsing big cats. I after having watched Tiger King, I kind of have some wondering. But anyway, Anyway, we'll talk someday about outside examinations of organizations, how awkward and unfair, but also revealing that can be. So there you go.
So mine is in advance, or at least when we're recording this is in advance. But on September 28th, a book comes out by a guy that you and I both like, Ryan Holiday.
Oh, yeah.
And he is a Stoic, and not in the emotion, but in the philosophy field of Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius and lots of other ancients, but then lots of leaders and professional athletes have taken his, not adaptation, but explanation. He makes Stoicism very accessible.
Oh, yeah. Not what you thought it was.
And explained, it helps you think, it helps you attack fear, it helps you think about how to deal with problems, his big famous one that starts a trilogy is Obstacles the Way, and how to take a problem, an obstacle in your path, and actually turn that into the way to move forward, or actually make it the solution to your problem. And that sounds very counterintuitive, but on the third read, it made sense to me.
Yeah.
But he's starting a new trilogy of books about core emotions or traits in Stoicism.
Oh, interesting.
And so this first one is called Courage is Calling. And he says it's all about overcoming fear and then embracing courage.
Oh, nice.
And I'm very excited for it. I have already pre-ordered on Amazon.
Good for you.
I haven't done that in a while, so I'm hoping it actually shows up on the day and not just swipes my card on the day and then 2 days later, but whatever.
Yeah.
The reason it matters, not just because it's cool to say, hey, I'm into Stoicism, but fear, anxiety, that is a huge part of what we do in fundraising, because you are passionate about your mission, and the fundraising literally is what makes this go and what enables you to accomplish your mission. And it can be scary to know if what you're doing, the strategies you're laying out, are going to work well enough that the mission can continue. And one of the big tenets in Stoicism that speaks to me is understanding what I can control. Focus on that. Don't focus on the things I can't control, which in our world is, don't focus too much on the post office. Can't control that. Just make the best appeal, write the best newsletter we can, get it from the printer on the right day we can, and then at that point it's out of our hands if it's going to hit mailboxes on time. You can't stress about that. There are plenty of other things to stress about, other places to hunt. And I would say, going into, when we're recording this, we're going into the fall season, reading even summaries of Stoicism will be helpful in your work. And you may not think you'd see it in the actual results or in the actual product, but I know for a fact you will see the benefits in being up late less.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad you did that. I can't resist saying, Holiday introduced me to Marcus Aurelius, you referenced, and I
not literally, because Marcus is dead.
Well, that's true. In Meditations, which is the classic, as someone who follows Jesus, I'm careful about who I listen to, and I found very few places where Jesus and he were at cross. Often it was like, that's exactly. Oh yeah, I get that. I know that verse about this. And so if you're a person of Christian faith, if you follow Jesus, it meshes well. There'll be very few bones you have to throw out. And Holiday's a good dude. He really is.
And again, it's accessible. If you were to pick up Meditations, that can be a little deep if it's not, if it's not with a companion study. But if you read Holiday's books, football teams, basketball teams, buy his book in bulk. Make everybody read it.
Everybody is paying attention to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Stoicism works. Getting control of your brain and control of your emotions, no matter what you do, whether it's fundraising, basketball, running a racing team, that will benefit if your emotions are in check and in control.
That's great. Love that.
So, this was episode 22.
Wow, that went by
Not
fast.
Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. We feel like it went by pretty fast. It's easy for us to go fast when we're like, hey, this is why these people are wrong. They're wrong this way. It's easy to just naysay and point out where people are wrong.
Nothing more fun than being a critic.
That's right. We can just roll
it's
all
like
day.
Those two old guys in the Muppets. That,
I forgot their names. So they're great. If you know their names, tweet us.
Yeah.
But on our next episode 23, we're going to talk about why kindergartners are the demographic that you aren't mailing acquisition enough.
Oh, of course. No one is going after that. That's beautiful.
You got to go deep.
Yeah, go at those guys.
Send us your 5-star reviews. Email any questions to podcast@oneicity.com. And thanks for listening. I'm Ryan Thomas.
I'm Steve Thomas. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Tune back in next week for another fresh episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.